Okay, I'm going to try this again. Alright, I'm going to show you how I made my wet-dry filter. It's a do-it-yourself system made out of Rubbermaid or Sterilite drawers. I've already done it before, but I had the filter running and it kind of drowned out the sound of my voice. So I'm going to kind of show you the beginnings of it here, and I'll show you how it works down below, and then I'm going to turn it off and I'll be able to show you in more detail how the things work. So this is a 300-gallon tank. We made the stand for it. I have yet to make the canopy. I'm kind of hesitant because it's going to make it harder to do water changes. So anyways, it's really cloudy right now because I've been messing with the filter below trying to get the video. The fish are scared because I've been turning it off and on. Anyways, to sum it up, the water's in the tank here and it has to get down into the filter below. And how it does that, it has these overflow boxes on each side of the tank. And in those boxes, on the top here, there's these slits that are cut out so that the water can go into those. It's sealed off. Those are separate boxes. You can drain the water from those boxes and the water would still stay in the tank. So it goes from the tank into those boxes. It drains down underneath and it comes here into the sump. The sump is actually a 75-gallon aquarium, and it can be removed. This whole center piece of the tank stand here comes out so that I can pull this tank out if I need to do any maintenance or if it leaks or anything like that. But anyways, the water goes from the tank and it comes into these drawers here, the Sterilite drawers. Yeah, it is Sterilite, not Rubbermaid. And in the bottom of each drawer there's holes, and that lets the water distribute out, and it comes through those holes evenly like a shower head here, and that lets it evenly drain down onto all these pot scrubbies. And I'll actually explain how that works and where you can get them and stuff like that. But first I'm going to turn it off so you can actually hear me without the water going. So right now, hopefully you can hear how the sound level of the tank is not very loud, especially for a system this big. Usually the wet dries are really gurgly. Makes like big slurping sounds, and you can hear a lot of water trickling. This one you can hear it, but it's not like crazy loud. I'm going to pause it here and I'm going to go up top. Last time I was doing it, I actually stopped it, so I had to start over. So I'm going to go up top and show you, how this system works. The tube configuration I have is called Dorsey or Dorso or something like that. If you want to try to look it up on YouTube or something. But I'm gonna show you how it works in just a second. Okay, the tank is still running. I've taken the cover off here so you can hear it. Once again, you can hear that this is not very loud. You get a slight water trickle, but it's not crazy loud like some of them are. Most of them just have a open pipe up here with maybe a strainer or something on it, and those make a lot of noise. The water will start to go through and it'll create a suction and you get a big gurgle or slurping sound. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the water off real quick, and I'll show you how this system works. Okay, I've turned the filters off. The water's draining down. The water will only drain down to the level of this pipe here, or to the level that your return lines are. If those are down too far, water will continue to siphon down into your sump and will overflow. So when you set one of these up, you have to make sure that your return lines are not down too far under the water. So this system works with 1.5-inch drain lines and then 1-inch return. And I believe this actually might even be bigger than that. I think I upped the size on this drain here. But how this works is it's a straight line coming up, a PVC pipe, and then I have a T-fitting right here. And on that T-fitting, I have this cap, which has to have a hole drilled in. That way air can get in there, and it doesn't create a full siphon, which actually wouldn't drain quite as fast as this. And this also allows, if there was a bubble to get in there, it wouldn't siphon back by itself. You'd have to remove the air. Well, this lets that happen. So anyways, there's the T-fitting, and here's a 90-degree angle, and that just goes right on there. This does not have to be glued in. What you need to glue in is the bottom one, just to make sure that that doesn't get a leak, and it will drain this whole overflow box into the tank, into the sump when you turn it off. I had a strainer basket threaded in here. I have some plants and stuff like that. Some of that stuff can go through the little slits here, and it wound up clogging those, and it wound up draining too slow. The pumps were pumping more water than was coming down into the filter, so the water level got too high. So I just took that off. Now I just have to clean the actual filter pads below more often, but it's better than worrying about it overflowing. So the water drains down into this, and I'll turn it back on when I get down underneath the tank and show you where it goes from there. Okay, so here I am under the tank, and this is inside that filter box, the overflow box. This bigger line is my drain line, and that goes down to the filter, and the smaller line is the return line. The pumps are hooked to that, and it pumps the water back up that tube and into the aquarium. These here are the only actual bulkheads that I have. Those cost a lot more than the PVC fittings, and I'll show you that I just used PVC fittings for the bulkheads into the filter. It's a lot less expensive. So anyways, it drains down from this line. Oh, to mention real quick too that I use threaded fittings here at the bulkheads, and then I also have union valves here. And what those do is actually, you can see it's a ball valve as well, but I can actually remove this, half of that union valve, if I have to replace any of this line here. That way I don't have to replace the entire line. I can just replace the section in between the two threaded parts and the union. It can wind up saving you a lot of money that way. So get some threaded fittings and union valves. Alright, it goes from there, and once again there are two of them, the one on the right side and then the one on the left side. And the way I have this set up is the left one actually comes over and feeds my drawer on the right side, and the right one goes over to the left side. And that's just to give me more wiggle room with the hoses and not have to worry about any kinking or anything like that. So here once again, this is what I was talking about. Instead of actual bulkhead, I just use different PVC fittings. Probably spent a couple hours in Home Depot trying to match up pieces to figure out how I could actually do this piece by piece. And once again, I used some threaded things in case I needed to change anything. So underneath here is an actual, like a nut, and I actually had to cut it off with my saw to make it thin enough so I can still open the drawers. It was a pain in the butt, but well worth it. Just kind of play with the pieces. Go to Home Depot, you'll have a cart full of them, and then you'll decide you want to do something different, and you'll be frustrated. So here I also have a piece of plexiglass on the top piece of this drawer. The plastic itself is really flimsy. If you see, if I can move this, without this piece of plexiglass, I mean, it would really flex and probably want to pop off. That piece of plexiglass really helps, and what I did was I just traced this shape from this divot right here onto the plexiglass, and I used my scroll saw and just cut it to that shape. It doesn't have to be that shape. You could just cut a square that would fit in there and it would be just fine. So as it drains from that into the drawer system, and these are Sterilite drawers, by the way. Here I don't remember, I either have 3 or 4 drawer systems here matched up. And you can get them all with small drawers or all with big drawers, so you get the combination. But what I do is I put one of the taller drawers on the top, and then the rest of these are small drawers. So there's 3 small drawers and then 1 tall drawer. And the reason I have a tall drawer on top is because the first layer is this Blue Bond filter pad. That catches the bulk of the big debris and stuff like that. And then the second layer, I have a sponge. It's a medium density sponge. It's not too fine. It still lets, it catches bigger things and some of the smaller things go that way. If you use too fine of one, it'll clog fast. And below that, I have this high density pad. I'll show you in just a second what it is. And this catches some of the real fine stuff. And below this, if you wanted to have carbon or ChemiPure or Purigen, whatever, you'd put that in a media bag underneath this. Try to catch as much stuff as you can before it hits that. Underneath these, I have this egg crate material. It's they call it egg crate. It's actually the fluorescent light diffusers. I cut that to size, and below that I have my pot scrubbies. You can get these at doitbest.com. I'll try to put a link on the video so you can get to it. You can't have it delivered to your house, but you can get it delivered to the nearest store for free, and then you just go pick it up. How these work is the filters actually work off of bacteria. I mean, it catches these particles on this, but the bulk of the work is done by bacteria that grow on these. Normal wet dries, they use bioballs, which are very expensive. And these actually have more surface area than the bioballs do. These are made out of like a plastic material, and lots of bacteria can grow on these. And they don't clog up either. I mean, you can go a long time without having to rinse these out. There's 2 different types of bacteria that grow on them. When the fish, go to the bathroom and uneaten food, that turns into ammonia. And the first type of bacteria eats the ammonia, and their waste product is nitrates. Ammonia is very toxic to the fish. It'll burn their gills. And the bacteria eat those. They turn to nitrates. Those are still toxic to the fish, but not as bad as the ammonia. So the second type of bacteria eat the nitrates and turn them into nitrates. The nitrates are not as toxic as either the nitrates or the ammonia, but when it does build up, that eventually does become a problem. The only real way to get rid of that is through water changes. They have some chemicals, or they call it chemical, but like carbon and things like that are supposed to be nitrate removers, but none of them are very cost effective, or just don't work very well. So you have to do your water changes. So I'll post my link with these. I mean, I paid, I think it was $30 or $40 for a couple cases of these, and you'd be lucky to fill one of these drawers with bioballs for that much. And I filled both of these drawer systems with them. You can't beat it. So anyways, you saw the holes that were in there that create almost like a shower head effect. How I did that was I cut a piece of pegboard, the kind that you hang on like a workbench. I cut a piece of pegboard that was the same size as the bottom of the drawers, and I used a soldering iron and melted each hole individually. You can use a drill, but it tends to crack some of them, and then you don't get the even flow through the holes. You wind up with a little water coming out through the cracks. and it makes the bottom of the drawer less stable if you get a bunch of cracks in it. So soldering iron's the way to go. Just the cheapy kind, you know, go to Harbor Freight, get the cheapest one they got. It works. It's more time consuming, but it does work. So it flows down into each one of these. And I also have in these lower drawers, instead of just the holes in the bottom for it to go through, just in case it was to get clogged up or anything like that, I got these slits I cut on the sides, and it's more important here on these bottom ones, the very bottom drawer especially. If you can see that there's more holes on the bottom drawer, and that's because the bottom drawer is underwater. Those bacterias, they need oxygen to live. A lot of people say that they cannot be submerged. They have to be like in one of these top ones where the water just trickles down and they have plenty of oxygen. That is true, but they can be submerged as well. If they couldn't, canister filters would not work. By the time the water goes through the tube and it trickles down, it's having contact with the oxygen. So there's going to be enough oxygen to let those bacteria survive in those bottom two drawers. They may not be as effective as the ones that are out of the water, but there's still enough oxygen to work. So the water will go down, it trickles through all of those, and then inside I also have a ultraviolet sterilizer, UV sterilizer, which is that black thing right there. This power head down there is what feeds that. I have a little sponge filter to filter out the little debris before it goes to it. The UV sterilizer I have in here is only 18 watts, which is not big enough for 300 gallons, but it still helps. It helps kill any free-floating algae and stuff like that, so you don't get the green water. So that little power head pumps it into there, and then the return line for that runs down here, and I have it right here by this return pump. So it pretty much goes from the UV sterilizer into this pump and back up into the tank, so I don't have to worry about too much of it just recirculating through the UV sterilizer and not getting like new water in it. It does a pretty good job. All the heaters, I have two heaters in here. They are both in the sump here. I don't have them up in the tank. It is just something that doesn't have to be up there. You know, more things out of the tank, it looks more natural. I also have a grounding probe in this tank. I haven't ever used one before. I've got one in this tank. I've personally don't know anybody, but I've read stories of people getting electrocuted. These are electrical components in here. They're sealed, but water does get into them, and you can get electrocuted, and there's always going to be a small bit of electric current in the water, which stresses the fish out, which can make them sick. So these grounding probes are supposed to help prevent that. And it's a titanium rod right there, and you can get ones that actually have like an outlet plug in it, that you just plug it into your outlet and it uses the ground of your house. Mine didn't come with that. I got one that was like $1 cheaper that didn't have that. And you would actually have to screw it into the wall outlet for it to work. And my wall outlet is behind this aquarium stand. I put my power strips in there before I move the stand in place, so that's not going to happen. So I actually had to buy a plug and mount it into that and plug it into the power strip. It was a pain. Just spend the extra $2 and get the one that already has the plug on it. So now, off topic, sorry. So the water comes down through there. I've explained how that all works, and then it goes into these pumps and they go back up to the tank. Now, see, I have the ball valve on the drain line and the return lines, and it works out great because my right side here, the slits were too small in the overflow boxes, So I made the slits bigger in that one, and I haven't done it on the other side yet. So water actually flows a lot faster through that overflow than it does the other one. I still have to take the other one out and do it. So I'm actually able to slow it down a little bit from that drain line. You know, usually people don't put the ball valves on the drain line, just on the returns. I found that to be very useful in my situation. It doesn't hurt. It just costs a few more dollars for the valve. It was worth it in my case. So I restrict. The other filled pump doesn't get restricted because I have one that's actually faster than the other. So I restrict that return and that drain. So I'm going to come back up top. I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to show you how the water goes back into the tank from the pump. Okay, real quick, you can see the tubes here. That's how the water goes back into the tank. Those are 2-inch wide, I don't know what they're called exactly. They're the flat sprayers. The water comes up through that 1-inch bulkhead, and it comes straight up this tube, and I have a T fitting that goes to a Y. These are the ball and socket line. They're flexible. You can move them whichever way you want. So I have the two 1-inch valves here, just kind of spreading the water out into the main part of the tank. And I have it split off to this side with a smaller one. This is just the 1/2-inch ball and socket. These are the 3/4 inch. And then I just put the small one because this is just a small little corner here. But if I didn't, it's just kind of a dead spot where water wouldn't really flow too well. So I was able to put that in there and stir it up a bit. And that's about it. Also in this tank, I do have a Fill Star running in there just to kind of help with the small particulate matter. It runs down that blue tube there, and it comes under here. 1 second. Yeah, it's right here. And then I have it actually running to the return. It's on the opposite side of the tank, so the water has to cycle all the way through the tank and back to here before it goes through it again. There's also a do-it-yourself CO2 system. I have that on YouTube as well. You can go to my page and find it. And that about sums it up, I believe. If you have any questions, you can post it below, or those in the Fish Club, you can just send me a message directly or post it on the Facebook page there, and I'll try to answer it for you. I hope this helped. Oh, real quick, this is the high density media pad that I have underneath the sponge and everything in there. It comes in a big sheet, and I just cut it to size. The stuff lasts quite a while too. You can rinse it out quite a few times before you actually have to throw it away. So I hope that helps. Enjoy.